doing for people throughout the Keys, Puerto Rico, and I've seen it happen for many other people and many other situations around the world in the time that I've been attending here. So honored to be a part of this family and so proud of everything that we do here. So tangible support, very important for a lot of people, particularly if the very fabric of their lives has been destroyed. Informational support can be very important also. Who do I talk to about FEMA assistance? How do I talk to my insurance adjuster about this? Or how do I talk here about that? Where do I get this information? That kind of informational support is a very important thing in the wake of most tragic situations. And then, of course, the emotional support, the seeking and allowing that emotional bond, as I just alluded to. It's really important, though, to realize that not everyone wants the same kind of support, nor is everyone able to give the same kind of support. Not everyone is able to open up emotionally and give emotional support. That doesn't mean they don't care. Not necessarily. It just may mean that they're better at providing food and water than a hug, or vice versa. And so it's important to know what you need and seek people who are able to give that kind of support in return. But it's also very important to try to get a sense of exactly what the other person is asking for or needing, and to provide them with that, and not make assumptions or push what you think they should be asking for in their faces. People hopefully will ask what they need for. They may not always be able to do that, so a gentle question of, what do you think you need most right now, can be a very powerful way to understand where they're coming from. To ask ourselves, that needs assessment, what is it I need most right now, is a really important thing to do. So, more on the process of resilience, knowing when and allowing yourself to seek help, possibly from qualified professionals, is something that some people may want to do, may decide they need to do. Again, it is an individual phenomenon, and I'm not standing up here and saying everyone should do that, and why haven't they? No, that's something that each person needs to be comfortable with doing, and hopefully will become comfortable with doing if they feel that the stress of what they're going through is something that they could use some assistance with, some qualified assistance with. So there's another very important thing that's just now being researched in the resiliency research literature that's out there across fields, mostly in psychology, and that is the role of spirituality in resilience. It is being found after years of the psychological and psychiatric professions disavowing spirituality, religion. Remember, good old Grandpa Freud called it the opiate of the masses. Well, that this opioid problem we have right now was about that opiate and not what we're dealing with now, right? How much better would the world be if we were talking about the opiate that Freud was talking about? But what we are finding out in the research that's being done is that opening and connecting with your spirituality, people refer to it in a number of different ways: God, universe, spirit, higher self. Opening and connecting to that is being found to be a critical and so very helpful aspect of human resilience. Not surprising to most of us here, is it, that that's the case? That growing body of evidence is significant, suggesting that it can be a major asset in coping with trauma, whatever the origin of the trauma is. So I wanted to find out who's actually doing some of this research and what they're saying about it, and found reference to one of the really important contributors and developers of cognitive behavioral
psychology, Dr. Meichenbaum, renowned researcher in the field, and he is saying, as you can see, that the attempt to seek meaning, purpose, that spirituality, he's defining rather as an attempt to seek meaning, purpose, and a direction of life in relation to a higher power, universal spirit, or God. Spirituality reflects a search for the sacred. And I would say the sacred in any situation we're exposed to. He goes on to say that the ability to help others is itself a sign of recovery from trauma, and spirituality facilitates that. Spirituality's focus on the forgiveness and empathy can help trauma. And trauma victims, I should say, reach this stage of recovery and even post-traumatic growth. That is its own incredible phenomenon that can and often will follow exposure to trauma. Post-traumatic growth, finding meaning in what we've been through. Even being able to look back at the most difficult of our situations and saying, wow, while I would never want to go through that again, if I hadn't, I wouldn't have, and then you still, whoops. Are we back?
Are we back? There, we're back.
I've got a red light on this. Does that mean I'm losing it? Okay, we're good. Can everyone hear me again? Okay, thank you. So, oops, I think I just lost it again. Go to Plan B. I can try to, yeah. It says I think I'll be standing still more now. Okay. How's that, everyone? Better? Okay, we'll do that. I'll turn it a little bit this way. Okay, so as I was saying, that post-traumatic growth is in and of itself found to be a major aspect of recovery and resilience. That point in time that we can reach, that many people reach when they say, as I alluded to earlier, I really would never want to go through that again. But had I not, I wouldn't have learned this about myself, become closer to my family, reprioritized my life, found meaning in whatever way, reached out to God perhaps. It can be any number of things that, again, individualized, each of us finds meaning in the wake of tragedy. There's a really amazing thing that has been found in the research that's been done with many medical populations, where we've tracked the development of this benefit finding, or post-traumatic growth as it's called, where when they reach the point that they are able to say, if not for having gone through this experience, I wouldn't now fill in the blank with your own meaning. There's a very real physiological event that occurs around that same time. Actually, there are physiological events that occur around that time, and they include reduction in inflammatory responses, a re-regulation of cortisol and other stress hormones, a re-regulation of the adrenal system, and even in some studies, many studies, it's been shown that the way certain genes express becomes different at about the same time, or maybe simultaneous, with reaching that place of being able to give genuine meaning and feel genuine meaning in the wake of difficulty, trauma, tragedy, whatever you want to call it. Isn't that amazing? Our bodies respond to our ability to find meaning in adversity. Or the question may be, the issue may be, are we able to find that meaning because our bodies have finally calmed? Chicken, egg, both make good meals. It's okay, right? So, the process of resilience, it is a process. And a big part of it is facilitating that calming response of that major stress activity that can take over the entire body. And so I want to teach you all this evening, or share with you all this evening, a breathing technique that I shared when I did the cancer presentation a couple of months ago that several of you have told me you've been using and have found very helpful. But this calming of the autonomic nervous system is, yes, about the actual use of the breath to change our very physiology, our brain and body chemistry, but there's some other things that we can do that are also very important, like limiting media exposure following a difficult situation. That's hard for a lot of people to do. I would say it also is difficult for us in hurricane country to do when we're still in that season. It's not like we can really check out completely and stop following the possible activity that may be coming our direction. But as much as we can to limit media exposure that keeps generating that stress response. The monitoring of our thoughts, especially those catastrophic thoughts of the worst of the worst of the worst that can and could or maybe will happen. Why not instead remember that there's this opportunity for transcendence, for growth, for actually finding meaning in it, and start looking for that instead of for the worst possible outcomes. Eventually, even the day-to-day tiring, bureaucratic things that could blow up on our faces with the various forms to fill out and all of that, they eventually get worked out. Is it stressful on the way there? Yes. But it really is more stressful if we think about how it could all go wrong. So, monitoring our own thoughts, monitoring our television and other stressful stimuli exposure, very important. But then we get to this conscious breathing practice, which has direct and immediate impact on our physiology once we begin to use it, and particularly if we use it regularly. So, as we prepare to practice a little bit of that this evening, I wanted to share with you also, though, a quote that I found by the beloved Dr. Wayne Dyer, may he rest in peace, where he really captured the essence of that monitoring of thoughts by saying, as you see, peace is the result of retraining your mind to process life as it is, rather than as you think it should be. Isn't that the truth? And I would add to that to accept and calm in the face of life as it is. It's a practice, it's a process, but it is possible. So, as much as we can, to learn to be the calm for ourselves and for others as often as we can. And so if you would like to join me this evening in a breathing pattern that I have found to be very effective in helping to calm the physiology of stress to whatever degree we're experiencing it, I would invite you to do so now. And so the best way to maximize the use of it, we'll wait for everybody to get settled. Okay, the best way to maximize the use of it, sit up straight in your chairs, uncross legs, uncross arms. You don't have to sit rigidly, just sit so that your blood flows easily throughout your body. First just actually check in with yourselves to see how much of your lung capacity you're using right now. Other than those of you who have already started intentional conscious breathing, is anyone really using more than about that much of our lung capacity, which is really about that much? I'm not. None of us are, I think, in all likelihood. I can't really see you that well, so I'm not going to, say you are or you aren't, but typically we're not. So close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so, or just find something neutral to look at, and just begin to focus on your breathing. That's the purpose for closing the eyes or looking at something neutral, so you're not distracted by stimuli around you. Begin by just noticing how much of your lung capacity you are using. And then quietly to yourself, state the intention I am going to breathe as deeply and slowly as possible from this point forward for the next few minutes. If you're uncomfortable doing this for some reason, find it difficult, ask yourselves why. People who are uncomfortable with it are usually in need of it. So, I'm going to count to 5 as we inhale. The breath will be deep, slow, and intentional. And then I'll ask you to hold your breath for a couple of seconds. And then slowly, slowly, this part is critical, release the breath over the course of at least 5 seconds. So you can think of it as bringing in as much oxygen to the system as possible. If there's one elixir of life, it's oxygen. We're going to bring in as much oxygen to the system as possible, filling clear up to the top of the upper lobes of our lungs so that it feels like they're pressing against the collarbone almost. And then slowly exhale after we've held the breath for a few minutes. So exhale whatever you have in your lungs now, and then begin to inhale to my count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then take a little breath on top of that to make sure you filled all the way up. Hold. And now, critically important, exhale very slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and begin again. There's no reason to react or respond to anything but your own breathing right now. No need to monitor anything but your own breath right now. If you're not comfortable doing it, ask yourself why. What might happen if you let your guard down? What might happen if you allowed the healing, calming response that the oxygen brings to enter into your being? It's probably what you need. Inhale deeply again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A little sip on top to fill, clear up to capacity. And slowly exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now this time count for yourselves. Begin when you're ready. A couple more rounds. Feel your shoulders begin to settle and drop comfortably. Feel the muscles throughout your body, your vital organs, settle and feel peace and calm from this little shift in breathing to taking in maximum oxygen capacity, allowing it to absorb into every fiber of your being, and then slowly releasing it, allowing those cells to open and release the toxic buildup of the stress that we've been through very slowly and deliberately. One more round. Make this your deepest, slowest breath so far. Very good, everyone. Excellent. Very good. And then slowly exhale. Notice before you open your eyes, notice how you feel inside now. Notice any changes. Might just be a little droplet of change that has started, but we have to start somewhere. And reclaiming not only our pre-impact functioning and feeling of well-being, but moving beyond to that transcendent place that is ours when we take the steps that I've shared with you tonight to claim it. So go ahead and open your eyes when you're ready. Notice the difference in the energy in the room. How much calmer, quieter, more peaceful, whatever else you're feeling. Enjoy it, savor it, you created it. And I thank you so much for the honor of being here tonight to share this with you. Thank you. And I wish you blessings, all blessings, for resilience beyond resilience that you have ever known. And remember, it's a process, one to be patient with. Thank you. Actually, we have a few more minutes if anyone has any questions, and someone wouldn't mind taking the microphone around, assuming I can figure out how to make this one work. There we go. Test, test, test. Nope. There we go. Test, test, test. Okay. Here we go. Okay. This is Pastor Megan, everyone, and so if anyone has any questions, please let her know. Or thoughts to share.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to share that someone told me that we breathe about 30,000 times per day, but we're not aware of it. And that person told me always that in the exhalation is the relaxation.
Did everyone hear what he said? That he has heard that we breathe about 30,000 times a day and we're not even aware of it? That's probably true. Have any of us ever counted, right?
Yeah.
But that also, that the exhalation is when we really attain the relaxation. That part is true, but there's a caveat to that. We can't have a long, slow, relaxing exhalation if we haven't taken in enough oxygen to facilitate that.
Exactly.
And also the oxygen itself does go in and connect with certain neural fibers and throughout the body, through blood flow, etc., to create a calming response. But yes, that relaxation response really occurs during that exhalation time, especially with that slow release. And that you can feel the cells open and expand when you do that, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out.
And the person who told me this, he holds the Guinness Book World Record for holding the breath for 22 minutes. 22 minutes.
22 minutes?
Yeah, but
can
he
hold
was
his
breathing
breath?
before pure oxygen before.
Uh-huh.
His name is Stig Severensen from Denmark.
Interesting.
And it's interesting that he holds the breath, but he also told us that the breathing is so important for everything you do in life.
Yes, and so it's amazing that he can do that, but just so we're clear, I'm not
No,
recommending
you should
holding
never,
your breath
you
for
should never
22
do this.
minutes.
And he always told us in dry land, so never do it
Right.
with somebody else.
Right. Well, the yogis say that a perfect breath takes 20 seconds to inhale, 20 seconds to hold, and 20 seconds to exhale. I've tried that. I've done that in my yoga practice many times, and that is a life-changing way to breathe, I have to say. It is something that has to be worked up to, though, and practiced, but it really is a phenomenal experience to do that. So I started with 5 this evening. If you can do 7, if you can do 10 for each step of it. If you can do 20, go for it. Just be aware of if there's something in your body that is arguing with you holding the breath for too long as you're getting started, especially, honor that, respect that, and let the breath out and then begin again. Because it can be distressing when you're first learning it if you go too far too fast. But thank you very much for those comments. Anyone else?
If there may be people in your life who want answers for why you may be acting differently.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
If there may be people in your life who want answers to why you may be acting differently, are there some responses you can give that won't lead to more questions?
Answers to what again, please?
To how you may be feeling differently after a disaster.
I'm sorry, I'm still having trouble understanding you. How?
If you're getting questions from people about why you are acting differently in response to disasters, are there some responses you can give that don't lead to more questions from them?
The answer is because everyone responds differently. And that is the nexus of the early part of the presentation, that reinforcement that virtually any response can be normal for a given individual or individuals depending upon who they are, what situations they're coping with, how they're reacting. It's really important to recognize that the difference in responses is a normal part of coping with disaster. I will say that if people have, difficulties on an ongoing basis with certain, mental health or other physical challenges, it's important to recognize that too, and to be sure that the assistance needed that would normally be needed is provided to those individuals. But within the greater community of people, we can see virtually any response. And we know, and those of us who do this kind of work, that it's within the range of normal given what's just happened. So that is the response. Why are you behaving that way? Well, because we all behave differently. We all react differently during these times.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you again very much for being here, and go in peace. Be the calm.